Hello and welcome to another video with me, Jo from J.H.Leather. Today I'll be showing you how to make your own padded dog lead. So for this tutorial you will need a strip of leather, a trigger clip, some padding foam 6mm thick and a piece of padding leather between 0.8 and 1.2mm thick. So as always we're going to start this tutorial with finding the best end of our leather and then cutting an egg point. Okay, so once you cut your egg point and you're happy with that, we're going to start the trigger clip turn. So I make my turns 2 inches long when they're made up, so you want to mark 4 inches there with your ruler and then just fold that turn over. You might need to wet the end to make sure it doesn't crack. Now, I didn't place my camera at the best angle for this. Basically what you want to do is to measure the overall length of your dog lead from the turn, so from the end of the leather at the turn, and then fold your leather to the side you need. So it's quite a short lead, this one. And then once you've got your overall length, sort of just fold the end a bit so it stays in place, and then you want to mark 8 inches for your handle. If you want to make this larger or smaller you can do, but I find that 8 inches is sort of fits most hands, and then you want to add 2 inches sort of from there, and that will be the other side of the turn. So you can cut that off straight and then cut an egg point on this end also. So you just want to mark where your handle will be, so you just hold it in place and then draw around the egg point with your scratchel. And then once you've done that, we're now going to edge our dog lead. So you want to edge the whole of the grain side. And then on the flesh side, we're just going to edge in between our sort of the end of our turns. So we're going to mark on where the end of our turn is for our trigger clip end, and we've already marked where our turn should end on our handle. So you just want to edge between those two marks. And we're now going to stain our dog lead. Okay, so sometimes what I do to get a good shine on the edges when I am sort of staining and polishing the edges there is I wrap the my bone in the staining cloth that I'm using. It just gives it a bit more friction and makes the edge nice and shiny. So that's a little tip for you there. And then once you've done staining your lead, we're now going to warm the creaser up on the crease heater and crease all the way around our dog lead. So I've zoomed in a bit here because I did get a question in one of my other videos asking to have it a bit closer. So what you're doing is just putting a line across the edge of our leather there. So once you've done that, we're going to start stitch marking. So set your dividers to your stitch marking width, and we're going to start on the trigger clip end and just draw around the very end of that egg point. And we're going to put our trigger clip in, and using one of our stitching awls, we're going to pierce through both bits of leather just to mark where the end, where we want our stitching to end. And then fold your turn in half and mark as close to the trigger clip as you can. And then you want to mark sort of down sort of for your egg point as well, where that fits nicely with your cut egg point on the back, and then even these up onto both sides of your strap, and then using your dividers, draw a line between them, and then set your dividers to half thickness of the strip of leather and even up that centre hole. And then using the round object, just draw around this so you get a nice sort of egg point shape. And then once you've done that, you can just stitch mark that turn there. Okay, so once on that end, we're now going to mark out our handle. So again, set your dividers to your stitch marking width. You can use the end that you've already stitch marked to make sure they're the same. And just draw around that egg point, fold the turn over and pierce through both bits of leather with your awl. So you just want the very end of it coming out. And then hold it in place and mark where you want your egg point of stitching to go to. And even that up on both sides. And now on the end of your turn, so the underside of your turn, you want to stop the stitching there at 2 inches away from the end. And then once you've got them all marked out and leveled up, just draw your divided line between the 2 points and then even up that centre hole. And with your round object again, just make a nice little egg point here. And now you can stitch mark the handle. Okay, so once you've done that, you're just going to skive the ends of your turn down to half thickness. And we can now start putting our lead together. So first of all, we're going to tack in our trigger clip. And then also going to do that, we're going to need our padding foam. So I'm using a 6mm foam here. This is plastisate that I get from Abbey, England. You can also use a neoprene or a similar foam if you can't get any plastisate. So when you're marking out for your foam, you want to add either a 1/16 or an 1/8 to the overall width of your lead. So I'm marking mine out at 1 inch plus a 1/16. I like that sort of thickness there. And so once you've done that, you can then cut your strip of foam out. And then we're just going to taper one end and slice it down to half thickness here, or skive it even. And then we're going to measure the overall length that we need. So you want it to go from that 2-inch mark at the end of our dog lead and to stop 2 inches from the end where our stitching ends on the other end as well. And then again, taper the sides and skive down with your knife. Now we're going to get our padding leather here, so you want a nice flexible padding foam. Here I'm using a sheep napper. You can also use obviously a cow napper as well. Basically you want anything that's between 0.8 and 1.2 mil thickness, that gives enough flexibility to wrap around foam and all that. So once you cut out your padding leather, you want to glue your padding foam to your leather. And then once your glue has gone off a bit, you can glue the two together. And now with a pen, we're just going to mark the centre, or where the foam, where the leather meets the centre of the foam, and then we're going to cut off any excess. So I managed to stick one quite centrally there, so I've just got the corners to nick off. And then once you've done that, we're going to glue all over our foam and our leather. And again, just leave that for a little while, just to sort of for the glue to start going off, or you can sort of just blow on it like I have here, and it will just sort of help the glue to start to get really sticky. And then once you're ready, you want to fold your leather around the edges so they're nice and tight onto your foam, there aren't any baggy bits, and then just fold it over. And then spin it round and do the same on the other side. So once you've got your foam all wrapped up, you want to just cut the end off with your scissors at an angle like we did for our padded dog collars. You do this so that you don't get a cut edge on your sort of best side of your padding. On the dog leads, it's not too much of an issue if you don't get that right, because they're going to be hidden in the handle anyway. So once you've done one side, you just want to measure it up and get the other side cut down to size as well, and then you can glue your handle onto your dog lead. So you want to make sure this is nice and central, so that it's not wonky once it's been stitched on. If you do get it on wonky the first time, it's not a big deal, you can just peel it off, and if you need to, put some more glue on and make sure it's central. So the brightest part of my bench is down on this end, which is why I've just moved the lead down to there, just to make sure it's all in the middle. And once you're ready and you're happy with it, you can then start stitching. So I like to start stitching at my trigger clip first, so you want to do your one back stitch and then continue stitching as normal. Now you don't need to do a stitch over the edge on your dog lead. And then when you get near to the end of your stitching, remember you're going to do a 1.5 inch back stitch, 1.5 stitch back stitch, and then cut your threads off flush, and you should have your buckle turn looking a bit like this. We're now going to start stitching the handle, so we're going to start stitching sort of just the padded area, and we're going to leave that last 2 inches there for the time being. And you just want to stitch this as normal. Do your back stitch to start with to secure the threads, and then continue stitching the rest of this handle as normal. Okay, so what you want to do is stitch both sides of your handle, and then once we've nearly finished our second side, we're going to just stop sort of in line where we started stitching on the original side, if that makes sense, and so we can level up and make sure everything's even to actually stitch the handle in place. Now this is how I do it. You don't have to do it this way. You can stop your threads there, make the turn and do it sort of that way with a separate thread. But what I tend to do is fold my handle over, pop my needle through the last hole on the other side and hold everything in place and just pop a tack in. And then once it's all leveled up, you can just pop another one in just to secure it. and then you can continue stitching because you've got your threads now on the correct sides, and you can continue stitching around that turn as normal. Now, like I said, if you don't want to do it that way, you don't have to. You can end your sort of stitching there, and with a new thread, sort of once it's all been tacked in, just stitch that turn separately. I just sort of do it this way just for speed, because I've got all the threads that I need. I've got the length there anyway. And you can just continue stitching your turn as normal, and without the need for doing a back stitch, sort of where we attach those sort of two bits together, where the thread goes through to the second side, but we will finish off with a 1.5 back stitch. Okay, so once you've finished stitching, just cut your threads off nice and flush there, and hopefully your dog lead looks a little bit like this one. So what we're going to do now is just do our finishing touches, and we're going to restain and recrease our dog lead. So when it comes to restaining around the handle, now obviously I've got a contrasting colour here, so you want to use something that you can be nice and neat with, like a small paintbrush like I am here, and it will just keep the stain off of your padding. And then repeat that again on the other side of your lead. And then once you're happy with your restaining, you want to recrease the whole of your dog lead. Making sure you get right around that turn there where the trigger clip is. And then hopefully your dog lead should look something like this one. So that is the end of this tutorial. If you liked the video, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe for more videos and tutorials. If you had any problems or you've got any questions, please post a comment in the comment section below, or email me on info@jhleather.co.uk, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So if you would like to help us continue making top quality content for you guys, you can head over to our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/JHLeather, and you can donate from as little as $1 a month, and this does go a long way to sort of helping me make better content and better videos for you guys to watch. Thank you.